Part 60. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 591. Chapter 591 A tip for you. Nangang Kinja's father, Nangang Bohai, was also very unhappy. How could an actor deserve to compete with his daughter for the same man? Determined to extinguish the actor's arrogance, he walked over with his daughter. Xiaoling plays the piano attentively, her eyelashes are slightly lowered, her is beautiful, and the piano sound carries a natural and harmonious rhythm. Girls with the Phoenix zodiac sign are born with musical talent that is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Even without much professional training, they can easily express their lively charm. Several guests have gathered next to the grand piano one after another, enjoying her music. So, when Nangang and his daughter approached, Xiaoling didn't pay much attention. She thought they were two ordinary guests who came to listen to the piano. Even when Nangang Bohai put a tip into the crystal plate on the grand piano, she did not raise her head. On the other hand, a low gasp came from the people around him. Finally, the sound of gasping alarmed Xiaoling. She raised her head and saw the arrogant face of Nangang Kinja, and then she saw the middle-aged man holding his arm beside him. The faces of the two looked somewhat similar, and she could easily guess that they were a father and daughter. Her hand on the piano stopped. It wasn't because she was afraid or jealous of the Nangang family and her daughter, but because they were the people she was waiting for. Now that the guests were here, it was time for her to go upstairs to meet Lilei. Unfortunately, Nangang and his daughter misunderstood what she meant. Nangang Bohai asked her with a slight provocation, "Is it enough?" Xiaoling was startled, "What is enough?" Then, her eyes fell on the crystal plate on the grand piano. There, in addition to some scattered tips and a handful of $100 bills she had just given to the pianist, there was also a gold card. "I don't know who is so rich, but I just threw a card down when I was giving rewards. The amount of money in this card is enough for you to live a lifetime of food and clothing. You don't need to play the piano and perform here. Take the money, live the life you want, and leave Tianyi." Nangang Bohai was condescending. Xiaoling was a little surprised. How much money is there in the card? Nangang Bohai thought to himself that she was indeed a girl from a commoner background who had never seen much of the world. She couldn't hold on to a little money. In front of so many people, she actually directly asked the amount of money in the card. This money-grubbing look is really ugly. I wonder what the second young master of the Li family likes about her? Nangang Kinja was a little embarrassed at that time. "Dad." Unfortunately, her voice was too soft and Nangang Bohai did not hear her. Nangang Bohai looked at Xiaoling arrogantly and said in a very reserved voice, 50 million, is it enough?" Everyone gasped again, 50 million. How could anyone take such a large amount as a tip? Could this man have fallen in love with the girl playing the piano in front of him and wanted to be his guest? But, listening to the conversation just now, it doesn't sound like it. Xiaoling smiled lightly. 50 million? He probably doesn't know how much his daughter owes her, right? She glanced at Nangang Kinja with a half-smile. The latter's face was indeed a little embarrassed, and she called out awkwardly, "Dad." Nangang Kinja did not tell her family how much money she owed Xiaoling. After all, 100 million is a huge sum not only for her, but also for the entire Nangang family, enough to break the bones. How dare she tell her father that she owed such a huge debt? You must know that she is not the only daughter in the family, there are several sisters who are eyeing her. As long as she makes the slightest mistake, she is likely to be replaced by her sisters. Nangang Kinja was filled with reluctance when she thought about other sisters gaining family support on her behalf and competing for the position of young mistress of the Li family. She was determined to marry Lilei and could not let anyone take advantage of her. Now, facing Xiaoling, she suddenly regretted why she had to identify her to her father just now. If she had just walked away, she would not have been in such an embarrassing situation. What if Xiaoling reveals the 30 billion? Dad, let's go, don't keep people waiting, Nangang Kinja said to her father. Nangang Bohai was not in a hurry. Their appointment with Li Lei was at 8 o'clock in the evening, and there were still 10 minutes left. It was just a simple matter to help his daughter deal with a love rival, so why not do it? Take this card and go to Tianyi to terminate the contract. The Nangang family will give you the termination fee separately. Xiaoling really laughed out loud this time. Mr. Nangang, right? Do you really think I am short of these 50 million? Those who come out to make a living should not pretend to be noble, Nangang Bohai said calmly. Miss Ye, if you are not short of money, why are you performing in this club? This sentence actually touched the hearts of the onlookers. There is a plate for tips on the piano. If she is not short of money, how can she make money here? Xiaoling was too lazy to explain to such a person. She turned around and was about to walk upstairs when she saw the pianist who had just walked away to answer the phone walking in this direction from a distance. Her mind moved, and she suddenly came up with a deceptive idea. No. How can you say it's a lie? Well, she suddenly had an idea to rob the rich and give to the poor. She looked at Nangang and his daughter and smiled slightly. Mr. Nangang, you are saying that these 50 million are tips for the pianist, right? That's right, Nangang Bohai said arrogantly, a piano player will never earn that much tips in his lifetime. Take it and don't get entangled with Li Lei anymore. The onlookers suddenly realized that this was the rhythm of a love triangle. Someone with knowledge has already said to the companion next to him, that is Ye Xingling, the female star who was rumored to have an affair with Tianyi's big boss Li Lei. The one who gave the tip was Nangang Bohai, and the one next to him was his daughter Nangang Kinja. I'm currently on a blind date with Li Lei. Oh, many people suddenly realized. This scene is interesting. I heard that the female star's tone was a little relaxed. Did she really want to accept the 50 million? Then she would be too easy to dismiss. The woman that second young Master Li likes can't be so short-sighted, right? However, it's hard to tell. Who knows if a female star with her background can marry into a wealthy family? It's better to just accept it when it's good. If you can make 50 million, it's 50 million, and you'll be safe. Many people looked at Xiaoling with a bit of sympathy and contempt. Xiaoling smiled lightly. Okay, the person who accepts it will never get entangled with Li Lei. Nangang Bohai's eyes also showed a bit of disdain. This girl is so short-sighted and ignorant. She is so easy to get rid of. How can she be worthy of being his daughter's love rival? In this battle of love, the Nangang family will definitely win. Nangang Kinja, on the other hand, felt faintly uneasy in her heart. She knew very well that Xiaoling had at least 10 billion, how could she give up Li Lei for 50 million? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 592. Chapter 592 The Confused Master. Dad. She wanted to tell her father not to give out the 50 million, but when the words came to her lips, she couldn't find any reason. After this hesitation, Xiaoling confirmed, this money is a tip for the pianist, right? Nangang Bohai's eyes were even more disdainful. Is this girl supposed to be a cousin and still have to erect an arch? Is she afraid that people will say that she took the breakup fee and looks ugly? No matter, as long as she can leave Li Lei honestly, it doesn't matter if it's a breakup fee or a tip for the pianist. So, he said, yes, it's a tip for the pianist. Xiaoling stretched out her green, white, and graceful fingers, gently picked up the card, turned around, and handed it to a man who had just walked over. Thank you now, Mr. Nangang, this is a tip for you. What? Ah. I go. There were bursts of low shouts from the Nangang family, father and daughter, and the crowd. What is going on? Isn't the tip for Xiaoling? The man who just walked over was the pianist from before. He looked confused at this time. What is this? Mr. Nangong gave you 50 million. By the way, there is a condition. After you accept the money, you cannot have any ambiguous or unclear relationship with Tianyi's boss Li Lilei, but don't worry, Xiaoling smiling sweetly, boss Li is a pure heterosexual and not interested in men, I promise. The pianist was embarrassed. The onlookers were also embarrassed. You, only Nangong Bohai went crazy. This 50 million is for you, it's you who want to sever ties with Li Lei. How could it be me? Xiaoling tilted her head cutely, I'm not a pianist, I just improvised 2 pieces of music. If you don't believe me, you can ask the lobby manager, the resident pianist here is really it's this gentleman, not me. Her little eyes were extremely innocent. There were already guests nearby who couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Just to put it bluntly, how could the woman that second young master Li likes be so weak and be scared away by a few words and 50 million? No wonder she had just confirmed with Nangong Bohai repeatedly that the tip was for the pianist. It turned out that she had already made up her mind to extort a sum of money from the pianist who was stationed there. The faces of the Nangong family's father and daughter were ugly. Nangong Bohai is also a person of status and status. Wherever he goes, he is not held in respectful hands by others. At this time, someone slapped her in the face. She was so angry that she was about to explode. Yinling, don't show shame. Xiaoling didn't care, there are so many people here to testify that this money is for the pianist. I am not a pianist, I just play for fun. Mr. Nangong, you are also a person with status and honor. Do you still want to? Do you want to regret it? Nangong Bohai's face turned blue and white. The Nangong family's business has not been easy recently. 50 million is not too much, but not too much. If it is used to deal with his daughter's love rival, it can be regarded as money spent wisely. However, what does it mean to reward an unknown pianist with so much money for no reason? The guests onlookers are all of low status, and they are all people with a certain status who can enter and leave this club. In front of so many people, even though he was heartbroken, it was neither regretful nor regretful. It was extremely embarrassing. Xiaoling looked at him with a half-smile, and then at Nangong Kinja. Nangong Kinja's heart skipped a beat when she saw her. Sure enough, are all members of the Nangong family descended from the same blood? Xiaoling had something to say. Nangong Bohai didn't understand what it meant, but Nangong Kinja did. If they dared to go back on the 50 million, I'm afraid Xiaoling would reveal the 30 billion on the spot. Nangong Kinja would rather die than let her family know about the 30 billion thing. If exposed, her status in the Nangong family, which she had won with so much hard work over the years, would be completely destroyed, and she would have to give way to other sisters in the family. That result would be worse than killing her. The lesser of two evils. Nangong Kinja made a quick decision and persuaded her father in a soft voice, Dad, forget it, our Nangong family doesn't take this mere 50 million in our eyes, just treat it as a reward for a dog. How are you talking? Before Nangong Bohai spoke, Xiaoling was already unhappy. Do you know how good this pianist is? How can he curse people casually? I'm afraid one of his fingers is worth more than your entire body. People don't know how much it's worth. She can guarantee that the pianist in front of her is a master with extraordinary insights. I'm afraid there are few people in the entire music industry who can reach his level. The lobby manager was also alerted and rushed over. He didn't hear the quarrels in front of him, and only heard the last half of Xiaoling's words. At this time, he nodded and bowed to the pianist and said, Master Munan, are you okay? I'm sorry that I came late and made you suffer. Troubled. Master Munan was confused. He wasn't sure if he was okay. Like the lobby manager, he actually didn't hear much of the conversation. Inexplicably, there was an extra 50 million. The crowd around them started to make a commotion again, so he is Munan. There are also those who don't know, who is Munan, why is he called the master? Don't you know? He is the leading master in the piano world today. Tickets for a concert are priceless. However, his temperament is a bit weird. He doesn't like to give concerts, but he often hangs out in some folk venues. Otherwise, let alone 50 million, no matter how much money you can make it back in minutes. Oh, oh, oh. Everyone suddenly realized. The pianist in front of me seems ordinary at first glance, but if you look closely, you will find that he does have a temperament that is difficult for ordinary people to achieve. He is very clean and extraordinary at first glance. I know that one of your fingers is worth more than any so-called socialite. Xiaoling smiled like a little fox. Although she doesn't know what kind of master he is, she knows music and knows what kind of fingers are worth a lot of money. Hearing what she said, Munan also smiled slightly. This girl is quite interesting. She said that his fingers are more valuable than any other famous lady, so why is her own voice the same? I have attended your concert, Munan said calmly and sincerely, the value of your voice is no less than my fingers. The two looked at each other and smiled, feeling quite sympathetic to each other. They cherish each other here, and over there. The Nangong family father and daughter almost burst into anger. It was really unlucky. Originally, they just wanted to teach a female star a lesson, but who knew that it would involve so many things? Although they didn't know who Master Munan was, they looked at the respectful eyes of those around them and didn't dare to insult him at will. What should they do if they offended someone they shouldn't offend? Forget it, let's go. Nangong Bohai decided that he didn't want the 50 million. If he continued to be entangled, he wouldn't get any good results. He took Nangong Kinja with him and turned around to leave. Wait a minute, Xiaoling said reluctantly, Nangong Kinja, you haven't apologized to Master Munan yet. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 593. Chapter 593. 2 Apologies. What, you still need to apologize? Nangong Kinja looked at Xiaoling with a bit of resentment. This woman dared to keep her from getting off the stage. Let's see how she will deal with her when she becomes the boss of Tianyi. Xiaoling smiled lightly, Miss Nangong is a well-known lady. She doesn't even know the most basic politeness. If you curse someone, you have to apologize. Do you need me to remind you, she has always been indifferent. Rao Ren, although he has restrained himself a lot over the years, he still shows his true nature when facing the enemy. Nangong Kinja gritted her teeth with hatred, but there was nothing she could do. Over there, Nangong Bohai looked at his daughter with a somewhat displeased look. Really, why is this daughter so good at scolding other people's pianists? It's okay now, I offended a master. You didn't even apologize for offending someone. With so many guests watching, didn't it make it clear that the Nangong family was uneducated? Nangong Bohai began to doubt whether it was really appropriate for him to choose this daughter for a blind date with the Li family. Nangong Kinja noticed her father's displeased eyes and her heart tightened. Not to mention that she was not married yet. Even if she was married, she would still need the support of her mother's family and the backbone of her husband's family. No matter what, she couldn't let her father disappoint her. So, she showed the courtesy and education that a noble lady should have, smiled at Master Munan with a graceful attitude, and said, I'm really sorry, I didn't know you were a master, so I offended you a lot. Master Munan is very well educated and is not as knowledgeable as her. However, Xiaoling sneered again, listen to Miss Nangong, if the person playing the piano here today is not a master, but just an ordinary person, can he be insulted like a dog by you? Her words were aggressive, but they caught Nangong's mind. The elegant loopholes, every word is reasonable, and it is irrefutable. Actually, this is indeed Nangong Kinja's logic. If the person playing the piano here today is just an ordinary person, how can he be worthy of accepting the apology from her, the eldest daughter of the Nangong family? However, when Xiaoling asked her so bluntly, she couldn't say anything. Otherwise, she would be labeled as discriminatory, uneducated, and unqualified. Then do she still need her reputation and the Nangong family's reputation? Nangong Kinja's face looked a little ugly, and she said reluctantly, "Of course that's not what I meant." "But, why did I hear your apology and that's what you meant?" Xiaoling refused to give up. "Miss Ye, don't push yourself too far." Nangong Bohai couldn't stand it after seeing his daughter being bullied, and said to Xiaoling sullenly. Xiaoling was not afraid. "How could I push myself too far? I don't understand. Is there any necessary connection between knowing that Munan is a master and calling him a dog? Dare you, in the eyes of your Nangong family, the master it's not allowed to be scolded, but ordinary people can be scolded?" "That's right," a nearby onlooker whispered, "it seems like the Nangong family is indeed lacking in education." Other guests also nodded silently. Master Munan, who was at the center of the topic, still looked confused. In fact, he didn't really mind these details. However, seeing Xiaoling fighting so vigorously, he was too embarrassed to stop her. Xiaoling said angrily, "When you apologize, you must also apologize sincerely. Otherwise, others will think that your Nangong family is bullying. Are you very powerful? Are you more powerful than the Li family?" Li Lei accidentally stepped on a even puppies know how to apologize. How about you? You deliberately humiliated a living person, but you don't want to do it sincerely. The conscience of heaven and earth, she really didn't mean to use Li Lei as an example. There are only a few wealthy children she knows. Except for Pei Xian, the one who dominates the world, Wei Shaiyan, who hides his identity, and Lin Yunan, who enjoys hanging out in low-class bars, she can count them all and use them as positive teaching materials. There was only one student, Li Xiaolai. There were whispers among the guests again, "Yes, how can the Nangong family compare with the Li family? I have met young Master Li, he is indeed a well-educated man, it is a pity that he is used to match Nangong Kinja." Nangong Kinja's heart skipped a beat. This Yexin Ling has such deep thoughts. He deliberately held on to her apology and said that she was not worthy of Li Lei. Was he trying to use public opinion to make the Li family give up on her? Don't lose the big for the small. After thinking about this, Nangong Kinja quickly corrected her attitude. This time, she said to Munan more humbly and politely than before, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cursed people casually just now. Please forgive me." Munan said, "It doesn't matter." His attitude is gentle, but he has a noble bearing, which is in sharp contrast to the groveling Nangong Kinja in front of him. Others looked in their eyes and whispered, "I heard that the eldest lady of the Nangong family is beautiful and elegant. It seems that the rumors are not true. I see, even the female star named Yexin Ling next to me can't compare. That's right, at least Yexin Ling is smart, dares to stand up for justice, and has such a high musical talent in terms of intelligence, talent, and kindness, she completely beats Nangong Kinja." Nangong Kinja was so angry that her face was distorted when she heard such a comment. Xiaoling was like a triumphant little fox. Well, these onlookers were wise. They should record their words and show them to the old man of the Li family. Maybe the old man would agree with her and Li when he was happy. Raise marriage. If Li Lei were here, he would definitely not know whether to laugh or cry when hearing such comments. His Xiaoling is indeed talented and has a very kind-hearted nature, but what does it mean to be smart? Everyone has misunderstood. She is just a little clever in the matter of cheating people. As for comparing the Li family with the Nangong family and creating public pressure to make people think that Nangong Kinja is not worthy of Li Lei, it's all nonsense, just a crooked approach, Okay. But no matter what, the eldest lady Nangong Kinja was outclassed by Xiaoling. Let's go. Nangong Bohai on the side also heard these whispers. He didn't want to continue to be embarrassed here, so he turned around and walked upstairs with his daughter. In his heart, he felt a little displeased with his daughter. How could he not even be able to compete with a female star for the young lady he had spent so much money on and raised in fine clothes and food? Have all the wisdom and scheming been learned from the dog's belly? It was inconvenient for him to have an attack in front of outsiders, so he just quickened his pace. Nangong Kinja knew that her father was unhappy and did not dare to say anything, so she followed him silently. The crowd of onlookers gradually dispersed. Master Munan played with the gold card in his hand. Thank you for the tip. Xiaoling smiled sweetly. I didn't give you these 50 million. I know who should be remembered best for these 50 million, Master Munan said, bowing his head slightly in greeting. You are very special. I hope that one day we can collaborate on the stage. Xiaoling smiled even more happily this time. I will definitely do it. Now, I'm going upstairs. See you later. She waved gently to Master Munan, turned around, and walked upstairs. Push open the door of the private room. Lilei, Nangong, and his daughter in the private room all turned to look at her. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 594. Chapter 594. Are you a cat? She walked in calmly and sat down next to Lilei naturally. Lilei poured a glass of white wine for her with his own hands, and was a little annoyed. Why did you go there for so long? She took the wine glass and smiled sweetly. How long has it been? I was playing the piano downstairs just now and I had a good fight, but I got into a fight with two ignorant people. When she heard Lilei's question, she knew that Nangong and his daughter. He didn't say anything about meeting her. This is understandable. They didn't take advantage of her just now. Instead, they spent 50 million in vain and were ridiculed by her. They were so embarrassed that they would definitely not take the initiative to mention it to Lilei. At this time, hearing her say this, Nangong Kinja couldn't hold back her anger, and her tone was cold, arrogant, and condescending. Yes, Yingling, this is not the place you should be. Xiaoling blinked, not understanding what she meant. Nangong Bohai had some understanding in his heart. Since this female star is not a pianist, she is probably a guest at the club. In addition to Lilei's words just now, why have you been gone for so long? Could it be that she came with second young Master Li? Judging from the appearance of the two of them, they are very close. There is something wrong with this. Nangong Bohai had an ominous premonition. If second young Master Li invited his favorite woman and his future father-in-law to dinner today, he would never bring his scandal partner with him. Since I brought Xiaoling with me, mostly means that there is no good banquet. Second young Master Li, why did you invite us here today? Nangong Bohai's face darkened slightly. Lilei had no time to pay attention to him and was busy grabbing the wine glass from Xiaoling's hand. No matter how you drink, you are not afraid of getting drunk. This girl drank the whole glass of white wine as if it were water. I'm thirsty. Xiaoling felt aggrieved. She had just had a quarrel with Nangong's father and daughter outside. She felt dry and thirsty, and had no water, so she had to make do with the wine. Lilei didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he rang the bell and asked for a glass of water for her. Xiaoling was very considerate to him in front of outsiders. As expected, she stopped drinking. She held the glass of water and drank sip after sip. Her petite body was curled up on the sofa, leaning against his shoulder, very intimate and relaxed, like a little cat leaning on its owner without any defense. Seeing her like this, Nangong Kinja's face turned even more ugly. Nangong Bohai's face was also very ugly. In front of his father and daughter, what did second young Master Li mean by showing affection to this female star like this? He turned a few corners in his mind and spoke slowly. Second young Master Li, this private room is quite small, and my daughter is afraid of noise, so I'd better ask irrelevant people to stay away. What he meant was to ask Lilei to drive Xiaoling out. Lilei said, "There are no irrelevant people here." While saying this, he found a tissue and wiped Xiaoling's nose. He was also convinced by his girl. He almost buried his head in the cup when he drank water, and his whole face was wet. Is she really a cat? Nangang Bohai's expression became even more ugly, and he thought to himself, could it be that he had really guessed that this banquet was actually a negotiation? There are too many business marriages in wealthy families. Which master and young master don't have a few confidants who live outside? Could it be that second young master Li wanted the Nangang family to agree to stop Nangang Kinja from embarrassing Ye Xingling after she married into the Li family? It's quite a beautiful thought. Nangang Bohai felt that it was a matter of his own face. If Mr. Li was secretly raising people outside, he would just pretend he didn't know and turn a blind eye. However, second young master Li had already brought people to the principal wife and the principal's natal family. It would be too cowardly for them to pretend not to know. This has not yet officially passed, and we cannot let the man destroy his prestige first. So, Nangang Bohai lowered his face and said, "What are we doing when our two families are having dinner with an unrelated female star next to us?" Second young master Li, "My little girl has been pampered by our family since she was a child. She has never received any education from her parents' family. It's wrong. I don't want her to be wronged when she marries into her husband's family." Li Lei nodded, yet his attitude was a bit perfunctory. Xiaoling, who was on the side, almost put water into her nose again, choked a little, and sneezed lightly. With a dark face, Li Lei directly grabbed her water glass. "Do you know how to drink water? Look, the collar of your clothes is wet. What if you catch a cold when you go back later?" Xiaoling looked at him aggrievedly. He and the father and daughter of the Nangang family were talking back and forth like this, which made her feel bored. What else could she do without drinking water? The faces of Nangang and his daughter on the side were also very dark. This pair of really seemed like no one else was around. Second young master Li, Nangang Kinja endured the humiliation. Her voice was very reserved in front of the man she liked, and her words seemed to have backbone. "How about we talk after you and Miss Ye separate? Today, let's go first." She was retreating in order to advance. If she wanted her relationship with Li Lei to be finalized, Li Lei would always take the overall situation into consideration and would not deny face to the principal wife for the sake of a wild woman. As expected, Li Lei said, "Miss Nangang, please stay, we will finish talking today." Nangang Kinja was overjoyed, and she became more reserved on the surface. "What about Miss Ye?" She looked at Xiaoling with her eyes, expecting Li Lei to drive them away. Li Lei, however, seemed not to understand her intentions at all, and just whispered to Xiaoling, "Sit still and don't move around. I will take you to have snacks when the matter is over." Very gentle. Oh, Xiaoling responded honestly. The two showed affection like no one else was around, and Nangang Bohai became even more angry. "Second young master Li, I told you that Kinja, our family, was also raised by many beauties. I hope her husband's family will not give her any wrong." Xiaoling couldn't see anyone being mean to her sweetheart, so she interrupted, "Go and talk to Miss Nangong's husband's family about these things." "What's the use of talking to Li Lei?" Ha! This time, it was Nangang Kinja who sneered. Nangang Bohai also sneered, "Miss Ye, please stop pretending to be stupid. Kinja's future husband's family is the Li family. From top to bottom of the Li family, from the old man to the second young master Li himself, they all admire our Kinja family." Xiaoling was stunned for a moment. Nangang Kinja said politely, "So, when our two families are discussing things, can you please step aside for Miss Ye?" She didn't want to make Li Lei unhappy, but she must not lose in the dispute between the main wife and the mistress from the beginning. To gain momentum, you must firmly gain the upper hand. It can also let Lilei know that she is not such a weak and pushy girl and can shoulder the important responsibility of being the future matron of the Li family. When did you agree to marry her? Xiaoling asked Lilei fiercely after a moment of silence. Lilei was very innocent. I only promised to marry you. When did I promise to marry someone else? Some people may have wrong intentions, how can they blame him? Nangang Kinja felt a thunder explode in her heart. What? Second young master Li said that he only promised to marry that little Yexingling. Didn't you say you wanted to marry someone else? Then what is going on at today's dinner party? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 595. Chapter 595 Physical Evidence. Nangang Bohai was also angry. Second young master Li. Tell me clearly. Did you promise to marry Yexingling? Yes, Lilei said calmly. Is there any problem? What's the problem? He actually asked what's the problem? Nangang Bohai was almost furious. Then you went on a blind date with my daughter again, what's going on? The blind date party is hosted by the old man, you don't know it. Lilei still looked calm. Each of these people wanted to climb the high branches of the Li family. They had clearly found out that his beloved was Xiaoling, but they still wanted to drive Xiaoling away and came to seduce him regardless of life or death. It's time to teach them a lesson. I just went on a blind date under the old man's order. When did I say that I would definitely marry Miss Nangang? Besides, a girl like Miss Nangang is probably not qualified to marry into the Li family. Lilei, what do you mean by this? Nangang Kinja was trembling with anger, and her elegant demeanor was almost unbearable. Do you just look down on our Nangang family like this? I am not qualified. Is it possible that Yexingling, a woman of mediocre background, is enough? Qualifications. Xiaoling is really qualified. Lilei tilted his head slightly, looking at the petite girl leaning against him, and said softly. Where a person will be reincarnated is determined by fate. The rare thing is, when Xiaoling thought that her background was not good, she would not flatter or fawn over the powerful. When he learned that he was the daughter of the Xia family and had a noble status, he didn't put on any airs and kept a normal heart. When she fell from being a diva to being an unknown trainee, she did not lose her composure or be extreme. From a little singer to being Xiaoquashi's younger sister, with tens of billions of dollars in her hands, she doesn't show off or be arrogant. Just this calmness, and calmness are far better than most girls in the world. Whether rich or poor. Lilei was quite proud. He had a crush on Xiaoling when they first met her. I have been with her over the years and watched her ups and downs along the way, exuding a beautiful brilliance like jade in the wash of time. Beauty is like jade. She is a real beauty. Only a wise eye can recognize and cherish each other. Xiaoling also looked at Lilei tenderly. With her beloved protecting her like this, what more could she ask for? She was also very proud of her own vision. Her boss really loved her. With a casual word, he blocked the mouths of the women who were eyeing him. Nangang Kinja was so angry that she almost cried. She didn't know Xiaoling's origin. In the hidden family, any daughter could be as noble as a princess, not to mention that Xiaoling was the most noble phoenix among all the daughters. Even if she took a dozen princesses, she couldn't compare to her. Every strand of her hair is cherished. Nangang Kinja only thought, how could she lose to a common girl? No, Mr. Li will not allow you to marry Yexingling, Nangang Kinja said to Lilei with her remaining sense. You don't need to raise this woman's worth, and you don't need to use such methods to belittle me. Yes, Nangang Bohai also said, second young master Li, it's one thing who you like, but please don't use such a humble woman to belittle the elegance of my family. In terms of qualifications to marry you, Yexingling has no qualifications to marry you. Kinja has it. Really, Lilei said, Miss Nangang really doesn't have one. His determined tone made Nangang Bohai suddenly feel unconfident. What do you mean? He asked in a deep voice. Miss Nangong, do you still remember what happened in the toy store a few days ago? Lilei said lightly. Nangong Kinja's mind went bang. What? How did Lilei know about that? It must have been said by this little Yasin Ling. Definitely is. She looked a little pale and looked at Lilei hastily, then at her father. I don't know what you're talking about, she said weakly. Over there, Nangong Bohai asked in shock, Kinja, what kind of toy store? What on earth is second young Master Li talking about? It's a toy store, Xiaoling on the side said enthusiastically, and finally got to the point. She felt energetic and wanted to finish the matter as soon as possible. She took Lilei to eat snacks. When I was shopping in the mall a few days ago, I accidentally broke into a toy store. What a coincidence. I saw Miss Nangong trying on clothes there. Miss Nangong mocked me for having no money and couldn't afford the clothes there. We made a bet, but she lost. My 30 billion plus mental damages have not been given to me yet. She spoke quickly and had a clear voice, and she made the situation clear in just a few words. What, 30 billion? Nangong Bohai was even more shocked. He turned around and looked at his daughter. Nangong Kinja, are you crazy? If he hadn't been in front of outsiders, he would have slapped him. If it goes up to 30 billion, it may not be worth this price if sold to her. She really dares to bet with others. This prodigal girl. Looking at her father's terrifying face, Nangong Kinja was panicked and didn't dare to admit it. Yasin Ling, don't slander me. When did I ever go to a toy store? When did I make a bet with you and owe you 300 billion? She looked at her with tears in her eyes, and then looked at her father and Lilei. Am I like that kind of person? Lilei watched her performance in a leisurely manner. Xiaoling said weakly, it looks like it, but it doesn't look the same. Nangong Bohai, on the other hand, calmed down a little after the initial anger. The more he thought about it, the more incredible it became. Kinja had been clean and self-sufficient since she was a child. How could she go to a messy place like a toy store? And you made a bet with someone, and the gambling capital was 30 billion? What a fantasy. Miss Ye doesn't even make up a good story. Nangong Bohai looked at Xiaoling with disdain. Let's not mention that it is impossible for my Kinja to go to that kind of place. Even if I really make a bet with you, you must have let's make a bet with equal capital. My family Kinja can afford 30 billion. How about you? If you don't even have equal capital, how can Kinja bet with you? Stop being such a slanderer. Be careful, I will sue you for blackmail. Blackmail, and slander. Xiaoling felt that she had been wronged and muttered in a low voice, she has obviously been there. Lilei couldn't see it anymore and felt that it was time for him to stand up, and he could not let others bully his own woman like this. He said, have Miss Nangong ever been to a toy store? This is actually very easy to confirm. He took out his mobile phone, called up a video, and put it in front of the Nangong family and his daughter. In the video, it was the surveillance video of that day. Nangong Kinja was choosing underwear. Not long after, Xiaoling walked in and the two started talking. This is physical evidence, and the witness is the clerk. If Mr. Nangong has any questions, he can confront the clerk at any time, Lilei said. How could you go to that kind of place? Nangong Bohai felt that his daughter would be humiliated, and he roared at Nangong Kinja. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 596. Chapter 596, Pay Off Debts. Nangong Kinja has a hard time that she can't express. It was also her first time to go to that kind of place. She originally planned to buy a pair of lingerie, and then get Lilei drunk on a date and have a romantic night. She is still a virgin. When the time comes, Li Lei will definitely be moved and take responsibility for her. In this way, won't she take over the position of the young mistress of the Li family? Unexpectedly, the plan was not realized but was revealed. At this time, how could she have the nerve to reveal her original plan in front of everyone? Faced with her father's roar, she was so panicked that she could only lower her head and say nothing. Nangang Bohai took her silence as a guilty conscience. He didn't expect that this daughter would be so. She was already on a blind date with the second young master of the Li family, and was still thinking about between men and women. Could it be that her previous innocence at home was just an act? If that were the case, it would be in vain for him to use family resources to facilitate her marriage with Xiaoli. Since Miss Nangang has been to that kind of place, how can she marry into our Li family? Li Lei seemed to be smiling but not smiling. Although Nangang Bohai was very angry with his daughter, he still had to defend himself in front of his future son-in-law. Young Master Li is wrong to say this. You just said that Ye Xingling is qualified. Why shouldn't Ye Xingling go, a place like that? She met Kinja in a toy store. Li Lei casually smoothed Shun Xiaoling's soft long hair and said in a calm voice, Xiaoling bought those clothes just to wear them for me to see. Don't tell me that Miss Nangang also wanted to wear them for me to see. We are not that familiar yet. Let's grow it. Nangang Kinja really said it was neither yes nor no. Saying yes makes you look too scheming and impatient, saying no makes you look wanton and ridiculous. She was in a dilemma, and cold sweat broke out on her forehead in such anxiety. Xiaoling looked at her amusedly. Where was the arrogant energy she had when she was in the toy store? With just this little fighting power, I still want to compete with her for Li Lei. Nangang Kinja, Nangang Bohai rarely called his daughter by her first name. Explain the matter clearly to second young master Li, he said, thinking carefully, those toys are really yours. Did you buy it for yourself? Who asked you to buy it for you? You don't have to cover it up for others. With her father's hint, Nangang Kinja finally came to her senses. Actually, my third sister asked me to buy those things for her. She has a new boyfriend and is too embarrassed to come and buy them herself. Xiaoling was also impressed by her character. At that time, she clearly said she was buying it to show Li Lei, but why did she suddenly buy it for her sister? Xiaoling silently mourned for the innocent third sister in her heart, and was about to retort, no dash. Li Lei pulled her. He narrowed his eyes slightly and asked the Nangang family and his daughter, really? It's absolutely true, Nangang Kinja said anxiously. Li Lei said nothing more and dialed his mobile phone number. Hey, Tan Ying, help me contact the third lady of the Nangang family. I want to confirm something with her. After giving the order, he pressed the button on his mobile phone. Lift it and put it on the table. Nangang Kinja saw this posture and knew something was wrong. Second young master Li, what are you doing? Let me verify what Miss Nangang said. Li Lei said, I like women who are more honest. Me, Xiaoling said briskly next to her. Li Lei smiled and patted her head lovingly. He wanted to use this lie to expose Nangang Kinja's pretentious and lying face. Didn't Grandpa like this woman very much? He was going to disqualify her from becoming the Li family's wife and tell her grandfather openly that this blind date was not suitable. Before Grandpa finds his next blind date, he can live happily with Xiaoling for a while. The Nangang family father and daughter were as anxious as ants on a hot pot, staring at their mobile phones but unable to think about anything. Nangang Bohai has already begun to regret. There are so many daughters in the family, but he chose this incompetent one to go on a blind date with Xiaoli. A good business marriage was about to be ruined by her. It's really hard to get on the stage. He glared at Nangang Kinja several times in a row. Nangang Kinja felt aggrieved and angry, and felt extremely uncomfortable. But over there, Xiaoling was still showing affection to Li Lei. I'm hungry. I'll ask the waiter to bring some food in. The food here is not delicious. Then what do you want to eat? The durian cake you made. What good durians are there this season? No matter what, I just want to eat. Okay, okay, I'll go to your place and help you do it later. Xia Ziling's face smiled with satisfaction, and like a cat, she snuggled into his arms obediently. Looking at it, Nangang Kinja felt like thousands of thorns had been pierced into her heart. After waiting restlessly for a while, the call was connected. Li Lei asked the third lady of the Nangang family on the phone to confirm the underwear. The third lady had always been at odds with Nangang Kinja, so she immediately scolded Nangang Kinja on the phone, cursed and swore that he had been framed, and revealed many of Nangang Kinja's evil intentions. Nangang Kinja's face turned blue and white. Li Lei hung up the phone and looked at her calmly. I really can't think of any reason why someone like Miss Yang Nangang could become my wife. Second, young Master Li, don't bully others too much. No matter how stupid Nangang Bohai is, this matter has not been able to end well until today, so he simply acted like he was furious. My daughter of the Nangang family is not a biological child. After being humiliated like this, I see no need to continue eating today's meal. Farewell. Don't leave, Li Lei said slowly. Ms. Nangang Kinja still owes Xiaoling 30 billion, plus mental damages. As for mental damages, just 30 billion is enough. When does Miss Nangang plan to repay the 60 billion debt? With these words, not only the Nangang family father and daughter were shocked, but Xiaoling was also shocked. Originally, she thought it was unreal to demand 30 billion, but she didn't expect Li Lei to ask for 60 billion. She was dizzy. Nangang Kinja was also dizzy, her body was shaky and her face was pale. Nangang Bohai was the first to react. Can the grudge between two girls be counted? He made up his mind that he could not give these 60 billion. 60 billion. Why didn't they grab it? So, Miss Nangang is planning to default on the debt, Li Lei said calmly. What kind of repudiation is this? The 60 billion I want is blackmail. Nangang Kinja trembled with anger. Miss Nangang is saying that I blackmail you. Li Lei narrowed his eyes slightly. I mean yes. Ling Nangang Kinja shrank under his gaze. This man really made people feel chilly when he put pressure on them. I am willing to admit defeat. Xiaoling did not admit that this was blackmail. It is only natural to pay back debts. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 597. Chapter 597 Asking for Help. How is this a matter of course? The father and daughter of the Nangang family were furious. They did not dare to vent their anger on Li Lei, so they could only scold Xiaoling. Miss Ye, you are a star after all, why are you such a rogue? 60 billion, why do you think you can take such a how much money? What qualifications do you have? In short, the Nangang family will not give you this money. That's my money. Xiaoling felt aggrieved. Why didn't she deserve 60 billion? My brother said that the interest on her pocket money is 10 billion, not to mention the amount of pocket money and dowry. That's Xiaoling's money. Li Lei also said, whether it is worthy or not is not up to you. He had long made up his mind to protect Xiaoling to the end. How could he allow others to bully him? Mr. Nangang, Miss Nangang, I advise you to repay the money honestly, so as not to get too serious and make both parties look bad. What's the bad opinion? Nangang Bohai also took the risk. Li Lei, the worst is that our Nangang family won't be related to you. Can you still go to court to sue me? This is China, let's see if the court will sentence you to 6 tens of billions of gambling debts. Li Lei narrowed his eyes slightly. Yes, this is China, a legal society, so he is still too polite to the Nangang family. If it were a foreign country, Las Vegas or the high seas, would you dare to pay 60 billion in gambling debts? It's easy to kill a whole family. I remember that most of the Nangang family's properties are abroad. Li Lei spoke softly. Nangang Bohai is a businessman, and his family also has property and is involved in crime. Li Lei only said half a sentence before he understood the meaning of his words. Yes, if this gambling debt is placed on the underworld, it will be really difficult to default on it. There are rules on the underworld. Even if the family is wiped out for 60 billion, no one will say it is unfair. But it was the Li family that Nangang Bohai relied on, not Li Lei. I want to see if Mr. Li will come to me to recover the 60 billion for Yexing Ling, he said with a sneer. At this time, Xiaoling also heard some clues. The Nangang family believed that Li Lei's own power was limited to the country and could not suppress the Nangang family abroad, so they dared to blatantly refuse to pay. She was angry that they dared to despise the man she loved. Just when she was about to say something, Li Lei pulled her gently again. Later, Li Lei said to the Nangang family and his daughter, "Really? You go. Come to me when you figure out how to pay the 60 billion. By the way, there is also interest, 1 million a day." Nangang Bohai looked at him as if he were an idiot. He said that the second young master of the Li family was smart and courageous, but he was actually crazy, right? Will the Nangang family take the initiative to figure out how to pay the 60 billion? Is Arabian Nights good? He ordered Nangang Kinja coldly, "Let's go." Nangang Kinja glanced at Li Lei with some reluctance, and walked out without daring to disobey her father's order. Xiaoling and Li Lei were the only two people left in the box. Xiaoling was very unhappy and said angrily, "Who are they, Li Lei? You must arrest them all, cut off their fingers, gouge out their eyes, and jump off the deck." Li Lei laughed out loud. "Why are you laughing?" Xiaoling glared at him. He ruffled her long hair again. "Where did you watch gangster movies? This little girl looked so unbearable when she saw him killing fish last time. Where had she ever seen any killing scenes? In other words, just talking about relieving her anger, but really wanting to kill him would make her cry for a long time." "I haven't watched gangster movies," Xiaoling glared at him again, and then muttered in a low voice, "I read the script of Jin Yifei's new movie some time ago." Ha ha, Li Lei laughed again, "Let's go eat. Make durian cake for me." Her eyes were bright. Yeah, a simple sentence made her forget about the 60 billion. For the rest of the night, she never thought about it again. Wait until she thinks of the 60 billion again, already a week later. Now it was not that she took the initiative to think of it, but that Nangang Kinja came to the door. In Tianyi recording studio. The weather is midsummer, and the sun is dazzling at noon. Nangang Kinja wrapped herself tightly in a very long gauze scarf, blocking Xiaoling in the eyes of the staff coming and going. "Yexing Ling, I want to talk to you." Her voice was still cold and arrogant, but it seemed a little hoarse. Xiaoling was surprised when she saw her. "What can we talk about?" "Over there," Wei Shaiyan yelled angrily, "Yexing Ling, come here quickly. The melody of the third line of the second section is wrong, re-record." Xiaoling sighed silently and said to Nangang Kinja, "I'm very busy." Nangang Kinja gritted her teeth and said, "You don't want even 60 billion. Xiaoling was very surprised. Before, Li Lei asked them to figure it out and then he obediently sent 60 billion over. Why did they figure it out so quickly? She was very curious. How did the Nangang family change their minds? "So," he said to Nangang Kinja very arrogantly, "Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes." He raised his chin arrogantly and walked into the small conference room nearby. Nangang Kinja also followed in. She threw her handbag on the table and said coldly, "Inside are bank cards, jewelry, shares, and real estate certificates. They all add up to a total of 5 billion. I'll give them to you first, and wait until you let Li Lei cure me. I'll give you the remaining 55 billion. "What's wrong with your face?" Xiaoling was even more surprised. Only then did she notice that it was unusual for Nangang Kinja to wrap herself up like this in such a hot weather. Hearing her ask this, Nangang Kinja's eyes were filled with hatred, and her voice changed slightly. "Yexing Ling, don't ask questions knowingly. What kind of medicine did you put in the water at the club that day? That made my face look like this. Yasin Ling, you must die. You don't deserve to die. Xia Ling was never one to take advantage of words, so she quickly replied. Then he studied her face with interest and said, "Take off the scarf and let me see." Nangang Kinja has been very angry during this period, and now she is being poked in a sore spot. How can she bear it? She raised her hand high and was about to slap Xia Ling on the face. It's a pity that she, a rich young lady, can't compare to Xia Ling, who has been practicing dancing since she was a child, with good motor skills. Xia Ling easily grabbed her hand and smiled. Is this your attitude when asking someone to treat your face? Xia Ling was very angry. Is this woman crazy? She ran wild on her territory. Is it true that she is easy to bully? Xiao thinks about her man, but he still wants to beat her. Her eyes flickered and her voice was gentle. Don't make me feel bad. When I'm in a bad mood, I won't help others treat their faces. Nangang Kinja's eyes wanted to kill someone. However, when she thought of her almost disfigured face, her chest rose and fell sharply, suppressing the anger that was about to burst out. Miss Ye, she said harshly, holding back her anger, please heal my face. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 598. Chapter 598 The Mystery of Dolphin Sound. Why should I treat your face? Xia Ling tilted her head cutely. Nangang Kinja choked on her chest and almost spit out a mouthful of blood. This bitch, how could she ask such a mean question? If it weren't for her, how could his face be like this? But no matter how angry she was, now that she had something to ask for, she had to humbly say, if your face is cured, the 60 billion will be yours. It's really weird, Xia Ling chuckled and said leisurely, Miss Nangang, did you make a mistake? That 60 billion was originally the money you owed me, but you actually want to use mine. Can you negotiate terms with me? This bitch. Nangang Kinja wanted to tear Xia Ling into pieces. She endured it again and again, even her voice changed slightly. Then what do you think we should do? 60 billion, plus interest, should have been given to me. Xia Ling was in a happy mood and felt that the extortion was a good deal. Besides, how much does Miss Nangang think her face is worth? Nangang Kinja felt sad and angry. It turned out that this was her purpose. The price starts from the ground up. Yasin Ling, even 60 billion is not enough. Do you have to empty out the Nangang family? Nangang Kinja said tremblingly. I'm not interested in emptying out the Nangang family, Xia Ling said lightly and skillfully. Nangang Kinja secretly breathed a sigh of relief when she heard Xia Ling gasping for breath. It's just that when someone messes with me, I'm interested in torturing the person who messed with me. You, Nangang Kinja's eyes burst into flames. Xia Ling smiled lightly, Miss Nangang, when you were in the underwear store, wouldn't everything be fine if you paid more easily? It was only 30 billion at that time. Later, when Lilei invited you to the club, it was only 60 billion. But you are not even willing to pay this little money. Now, you have to pay more for facial treatment. What does such a small amount of money mean? Nangang Kinja was so angry that she almost went crazy. 60 billion, does she think it is 600 yuan? Such a little money. She actually paid such a small amount of money to show it to others. Bitch. Nangang Kinja cursed in her heart, bit her lip and remained silent. Wei Shaiyin yelled crazily from next door again, Yasin Ling, where have you been? Get out of here. Your song hasn't been recorded yet. Xia Ling rubbed her forehead with a headache, jumped down from the desk where she was sitting, and was about to go out. You take your time and think about it first, I'll go record it. Wait a minute. Nangang Kinja took a deep breath and said, I'll give you another 10 billion more. Yo Xia Ling was a little surprised. She didn't expect that the Nangang family was so rich. How could they just blackmail 10 billion out of it so casually? 10 billion, she asked doubtfully, wanting to make sure she heard correctly. 20 billion, Nangong Kinja's heart was bleeding, no more. If you want money, you won't risk your life. Xiaoling. She swore that she was just asking casually, and she definitely didn't mean to be too little. It was Nangong Kinja who was willing to increase it to 20 billion. She was very innocent, huh? Deal, she said briskly. Over there, Wei Shaiyin was roaring again. The assistant knocked on the door with a sad face. Sister Xiaoling, please go to the recording studio and take a look. Brother Wei is going crazy. Whoever you catch will scold him. All the staff like Xiaoling very much, because when Xiaoling is there, Wei Shaiyin basically only scolded her, and everyone else was safe. And once she disappears, other staff members begin to suffer. Xiaoling was speechless and followed the assistant. Hello, Nangong Kinja shouted anxiously behind her. Unfortunately, Xiaoling didn't hear it. The door of the spotless recording studio. Wearing a very simple white shirt, platinum-rimmed glasses, and a Patek Philippe, Wei Shaiyin's hand was about to poke Xiaoling's face. You still know how to come back after death. Go into the studio and record. Where is your professional ethics? Xiaoling. Wei Shaiyin, what is your look like? Are you dissatisfied? Believe it or not, I will ban you. Xiaoling asked silently, Wei, how much is your entire net worth? Wei Shaiyin was stunned, huh? Don't scold me casually from now on. Sister is a woman with 600, oh no, 800, oh no, 90 billion. She finally managed to add the gambling debt, mental damage fee, and Nangong Kinja's facial treatment money. The interest on the pocket money given by Brother Jia has been calculated clearly. He was so rich that he didn't even include the 1 million a day interest owed by Nangong's family and the 5 million monthly pocket money Li Lei gave him. This time Wei Shaiyin was speechless. Is this girl dreaming? In a blink of an eye, Xiaoling had already entered the recording studio. When she entered the studio, she seemed to be a different person. She quickly fell into the music state. The recorded singing voice was melodious and passionate, just like the sound of nature. When the song ended, the lingering sound lingered. Wei Shaiyin outside the shed pondered for a moment, do it again. Is something wrong? Xiaoling walked out and asked. Xiaoling, have you noticed that your voice is a little different recently? Wei Shaiyin paused slightly and thought for a while before speaking, the range of your voice is higher than before. Sometimes, I can't even tell who you are. Are you singing the throat sound or the whistle sound? The whistle sound is the dolphin sound. It is a natural range and cannot be acquired. How could? Xiaoling was about to say how could she sing the whistle, but suddenly she was stunned. Thinking about it carefully, my pronunciation just now is really similar to when I sang the whistle in my previous life. Even the unconscious movements are like making a whistle, Wei Shaiyin said, raising his hand to slightly press the back of the ear. The sounding method of the whistle is different from ordinary sounds. In order to locate the pitch, singers who sing whistles will do this subconsciously. For example, the former Queen Xiaoling used her fingertips to touch the position, and you also raised your hand when recording the high notes. Xiaoling was stunned. Could it be that her dolphin voice was back? This unscientific. She walked into the studio like a sleepwalker. This time, she carefully felt her high notes. Sure enough, compared to the ordinary pharyngeal interpretation, her vocal range is now more flexible and brighter. She will unconsciously lift her voice when she sings to the point where she forgets her emotions. He gently pressed his hands behind his ears, feeling very involved and enjoying himself. A bit worse than the dolphin sound in my previous life. But it is definitely not in the category of pharyngeal sounds. How could this happen? She murmured at the end of the song. Wei Shaiyin pushed open the glass door and came in with a look of disbelief on her face. Are you developing for the second time? Such a miracle has never happened in the history of music. This is more unbelievable than a person's gift of dolphin sound. I'm a little dizzy. Xiaoling said, pushing Wei Shaiyin away and sitting on the small sofa nearby. Looking back, when did the sound start to sound wrong? On your first concert, your performance in the treble section amazed many people at that time. I thought you were practicing your throat sounds very hard and achieved outstanding results. Wei Shaiyin said. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 599. Chapter 599 The Virus in My Home. Xiaoling touched her throat, still sleepwalking, and subconsciously replied, I am indeed very hard-working. Wei Shaiyin said, you work too hard, that's why everyone thought you were good at pharyngeal vocals and didn't think about dolphin vocals. Xiaoling, actually you know better than me, pharyngeal vocals are very tiring. At the beginning, at a concert, if you sing more than a dozen songs in one breath, your voice will be overwhelmed. Xiaoling thought about it carefully. Well, I didn't feel very tired at that time. I thought it was because I was in a good state on the spot. However, no matter how good the state is on the spot, it is impossible to be that relaxed, unless, at that time, she has a gifted dolphin voice and can sing high notes without much effort. In other words, at that time, your voice developed for the second time, Wei Shaiyin concluded. If it were that time. Xiaoling thought carefully, why did she suddenly have the sound of dolphins? That's right, brother's bowl of soup. She was so excited that she took out her cell phone and wanted to confirm it to her brother. Suddenly she remembered that her brother had specifically told her not to call when there was nothing wrong, so she held it back. Dolphin sound, she has the dolphin sound again. This means that she will soar freely at a height unreachable by ordinary people and regain the glory of her previous life. She went back into the recording studio, raised the scale of the song she had just recorded, and recorded it again. This time, the sound performance is more eye-catching, frank, arrogant, and amazing. This must be the sound of dolphins. Wei Shaiyin was also very excited. Xiaoling, cherish your talent. I will revise the music plan based on your voice characteristics, and you will go down in music history. Xiaoling just laughed. She has long been famous in music history as the Queen Xiaoling. In this life, she does not want to stop at the height of her previous life, she will fly to higher places. She said goodbye to Wei Shaiyin and prepared to go home to tell Li Lei and her old friend Feng Kun the good news. Unexpectedly, before I took a few steps out of the glass door, I met Nangong Kinja again. Nangong Kinja's face was still wrapped with the long gauze scarf, and her originally gorgeous eyes seemed to be bursting with fire. Yes, Xinling, you promised to treat my face, don't even think about leaving like this. Xiaoling then remembered that there was such a famous person. I'll ask Li Lei to help you heal your face, she said perfunctorily, as if she was sending a beggar away. She was thinking about dolphin sound in her heart and was not prepared to talk about it with irrelevant people. However, Nangong Kinja did not let her go. You call Li Lei now. Xiaoling frowned. Miss Nangong, it seems that you have forgotten what it means to beg for help. Nangong Kinja was furious. As a beautiful woman, her face was disfigured. How could she not be anxious? But facing the slow-moving Xiaoling, she couldn't get angry casually. She endured it again and again, and finally said in a pleading tone, Miss Ye, we are all women, please don't embarrass me anymore. Please hurry up. Second young master Li cured my face, and I, Nangong Kinja, am very grateful. Xiaoling nodded with satisfaction. That's right, the attitude must be correct first. She avoided Nangong Kinja who was blocking the way and walked out again. Nangong Kinja didn't want to stop him, and it didn't matter if he didn't. He was stuck in the middle of the road and was extremely embarrassed. Wei Shaiyin walked out and saw this scene. Who are you? What are you doing in the recording studio? He always had a misophobia, wrinkled his nose and smelled the smell in the air. What kind of weird smell is this? It stinks. A hint of humiliation flashed in Nangang Kinja's eyes. Over there, Wei Shaiyin had discovered the source of pollution and took 3 steps back, far away from Nangang Kinja. Get out quickly. Don't dirty my office. She also covered her nose. Why does this woman smell so bad? What's even more terrifying is that he seems to have smelled this stink somewhere before. No matter how bad Nangang Kinja is, she was raised as a young lady. How could she bear such an insult? She glared at Wei Shaiyin angrily, turned around and wanted to walk out. Wait a minute, Wei Shaiyin almost screamed, calling her to stop. His shout even startled Xiaoling, and she turned around to see what happened. Under the silver-white light, Wei Shaiyin's expression showed rare fear. She retreated to the farthest place from Nangang Kinja and said, "Take off your veil and let me take a look." How could Nangang Kinja agree? Turn around and walk out. Stop her, Wei Shaiyin shouted to the security guard. The security guard has long been accustomed to the chief music producer's neurotic style, and he stopped Nangang Kinja without even asking for a reason. What are you going to do? Nangang Kinja was very angry. Xiaoling couldn't stand it anymore and said to Wei Shaiyin, her face is disfigured. It smells so bad. It must be badly damaged. What's so good about it? Why don't you just let her go and keep it for yourself, adding to the problem? So smelly. Nangang Kinja felt that she had been hurt 10,000 times. Yasin Ling. Don't go too far, she yelled at Xiaoling angrily. Xiaoling ignored her and said directly to the security guard, let her go quickly. After she leaves, you should disinfect the General Health Office and remember to deodorize it. You can't let her go, Wei Shaiyin still screamed, take off her veil quickly. His reaction was like a cat with an exploded fur. Xiaoling was very surprised. Wei, I didn't expect you to be so harsh and like women with such a disfigured style. I like shit, Wei Shaiyin rarely cursed, pick it off and show it to me. I've smelled this smell before. It's a newly developed biochemical agent in a laboratory under that pervert Wei Lingnan. The raw materials contain highly contagious viruses. Highly contagious virus. Hearing these words, the security guards all took a few steps back. Real or fake, Xiaoling was very doubtful. This potion was given by Li Lei. Even if it was taken from the Wei family laboratory, it should have been confirmed to be safe before being used outside. Will there be no infection? What is true or false? Wei Shaiyin was angry, my virus can turn living people into zombies. Let me see if it is mine. If it is not as simple as ordinary disinfection, so, he just insisted on lifting the veil of Nangang Kinja. He felt miserable. He ran away from the family just because he didn't want to deal with high-risk deadly abnormal viruses all day long. Unexpectedly, his uncle also really had things in the laboratory spread to the outside world. He is simply crazy. Ha, a living person turns into a zombie? Wei, you have watched too many science fiction movies, right? Xiaoling originally wanted to laugh at him, but seeing the look on his face, she was really scared, so she thought it would be better to do a good deed. When all the security guards retreated, she stepped forward and immediately unveiled Nangang Kinja's veil. Ah dash! Ghost! Many security guards screamed, and some of the brave ones ran away. Xiaoling was also frightened and took several steps back unconsciously. You. Her voice trembled slightly. Looking at Nangang Kinja's face that was neither human nor ghost, the word zombie came to mind. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 600. Chapter 600 I promise not to beat you to death. That is a rotten and deformed face. The skin and flesh were rolled up, Pus flowed from the cheek, exposing the dense white bones. Nangang Kinja was originally very beautiful, with gorgeous and noble eyes, and half of her rotten face, which was indescribably weird and terrifying. The veil was lifted, and the stench became even stronger. 2 security guards were already covering their mouths and retching. Wei Shayin jumped to her feet and screamed again, "That pervert Wei Lingnan! Psycho! Crazy! He really spread the medicine from the laboratory. Can you turn into a zombie?" Xiaoling's initial boldness disappeared without a trace after seeing Nangang Kinja's badly festered face. At this time, Wei Shayin huddled behind him and asked weakly. "I'm going to turn him into a zombie." Wei Shayin jumped and cursed her uncle, not forgetting to instruct the security guards, "Get that rotten woman out quickly." That rotten woman, Nangang Kinja, cowered and covered her face at first, avoiding everyone's monster-like looks. Later, I heard some clues and guessed that the virus had something to do with Wei Shayin. I hurriedly staggered towards him and begged him, "Save me, please save me." Wei Shayin hurriedly dodged back. Xiaoling dodges with him. Nangang Kinja refused to give up and continued to pounce on the 2 of them in embarrassment. The yellow-green pus on her face flowed down, and followed her footsteps, flowing all the way on the smooth marble floor. Xiaoling was so sick that she almost vomited, and scolded Wei Shayin, "It's all your fault. Why did you take off the veil so well? Why are your Wei family so perverted?" Wei Shayin was also angry. "Who lifted the veil? Aren't you very courageous? Don't hide behind me." He looked stern and his voice was trembling uncontrollably. It was a pity that he was not afraid of anything. The only thing he was afraid of in his life was the perverted potions at home. "If I knew who drugged her, I would chop that person into pieces." Xiaoling silently gave Li Lei a thumbs up in her heart. "Think of a way," she fiercely defended Shayin, "she's getting closer. What good ideas can Wei Shayin have?" Screaming at the security guard, "Get that rotten woman away." The security guards were dilly-dallying. "Save me." Nangang Kinja smiled miserably, twisting her mouth, as if she was crazy. "You won't save me, right? Then let's die together." She rushed towards Xiaoling. "If this virus is highly contagious, yes, then one of hers will be transmitted to Xiaoling." Xiaoling said dash and quickly shrank behind Wei Shayin, treating him as a human shield in a very shameless way. Nangang Kinja jumped directly on Wei Shayin, who screamed and kicked her away. Nangang Kinja was kicked so hard that she rolled several times on the ground and huddled at the corner of the table, unable to stand up for a while. "You still won't get her out." Wei Shayin jumped to her feet and scolded the security guards, "I'm going to fire you all." Those security guards were wronged. In fact, they were very professional and would not flinch even if a terrorist rushed in. However, the rotten woman in front of me is scarier than a terrorist, mainly because she is so ugly. Amid Wei Shayin's yelling and scolding, they resisted the urge to vomit and finally threw Nangang Kinja out. The world is quiet. Xiaoling breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking back to the scene just now, she still felt scared, and the hand holding Wei Shaiyin's sleeve was still shaking a little. Wei Shaiyin unceremoniously pushed her away. "Tell me. What's going on? Why would a rotten woman who used my potion come to you?" Xiaoling looked at him innocently. There's no point in pretending to be innocent. Wei Shaiyin was in a bad mood. Xiaoling thought that if he found out that this matter was related to her, he might tear her into pieces, so she betrayed Li Lei very decisively. "It's Li Lei. Don't ask about what he did to Nangang Kinja. Why, I don't know." Wei Shaiyin looked at her suspiciously. She looked at him bravely, looking like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. Wei Shaiyin didn't have much time to distinguish the truth from falsehood in her words. She caught sight of the pus on the ground from the corner of her eye. She was so sick that she almost vomited. She rushed out quickly and drove home to take a shower. Thank God, thank Wei Shaiyin for being misophobic. Let her go through a reckoning. Xiaoling felt like vomiting when she looked at the mess in the house, so she left quickly and went home to take a shower. After taking a shower, I had time to call Lilei. What on earth did you do to Nangang Kinja? Why did her face become like that? Did the medicine work? Lilei said enthusiastically. Did you take pictures? Send them to me quickly. I heard that this is the latest medicine of the Wei family. The disfiguring effect is unprecedented. Nangang Kinja's rotten face unexpectedly appeared in Xiaoling's mind again, and she became furious. You didn't know to warn me in advance. I stupidly lifted her veil. I was scared to death. I didn't plan to give you a surprise, Li Xiaoli. I felt aggrieved. Surprise? Xiaoling gritted her teeth at the same time. Come here, I'll give you a surprise too. I promise not to beat you to death. Classmate Li Xiaoli, I said with a smile. Okay, don't be angry. The goal has been achieved anyway, right? Nangang Kinja came to see you today to give you money, right? Well, 5 billion, Xiaoling said without interest. After you cure her face, I will give you another 75 billion. By the way, he also told her about blackmailing her to an additional 20 billion. You are a pig. Unexpectedly, Lilei said. What, are you scolding me? Xiaoling, a classmate, was furious. It's only 5 billion. She has already given you her bank card, movable property, real estate certificate, and jewelry. It seems that she took a long time to get it together, Lilei analyzed lazily. Do you think she is so poor? Can you still get 75 billion? Xiaoling had never thought about this problem before, but at this time, she was stunned. Little pig, Lilei concluded. She felt that the 75 billion she had received was about to fly away. She was not in the mood to argue with Lilei and was very worried. What should I do then? How can she be so poor? Wow, you lied to me to treat her face. It turns out she can't afford the treatment. Lilei said, open the door. What? Xiaoling didn't hear clearly. I asked you to open the door. She reacted for a moment, rushed to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked downstairs. She saw a tall man standing upright outside the wooden fence in the garden covered with ivy and tuberose, talking on the phone in one hand, raising his head and looking. He pointed towards the floor-to-ceiling window and smiled slightly at her. She snorted a little arrogantly, I won't open the door. Lilei smiled slightly on the phone, don't you want 75 billion? My brother said, if you can't get money for me, you won't be allowed to enter my Xia family. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. Well, it feels good to have the support of her mother-in-law. End of this chapter.